I'm John Lorden, and I've been looking into mysterious occurrences since 2015. Joining me today are some friends from Uncovered.com.
I'm Andrea Cipriano. I'm a forensic psychologist and the digital content specialist at Uncovered.
I'm Dana Pohl. I'm a librarian, podcaster, and head of community at Uncovered.
Welcome back to LordanArts Uncovered. As the 4th of July holiday nears, I know for the family of Chance Englebert, it will bring hard feelings and unanswered questions. In 2019, 25-year-old Chance disappeared during an early July weekend trip to Gering, Nebraska to visit his wife's family. Chance got upset and walked off, leaving behind a trail of phone calls, sightings, and a cryptic text message. 4 years later, his whereabouts still remain unknown. Gering, Nebraska is a small, picturesque town nestled at the base of Scottsbluff National Monument, a 3,000-acre national park situated along the banks of the North Platte River. Just 40 miles from Interstate 80, Gering lies between Colorado's Front Range, Yellowstone National Park, and the Black Hills of South Dakota. The town of Gering spans just 5.6 square miles, and according to the 2020 census, has a population of 8,654 people. Chance's story takes us from Gering to Terrytown, down the banks of the North Platte River and into Wyoming. Let's turn it over to our case experts to learn more. Dana, Andrea, how does this timeline come together, and what can you tell us about Chance Englebert?
Chance Leslie Englebert was born on December 2nd, 1993, near Edgemont, South Dakota. Growing up on his family's ranch in Burdock with his parents and two brothers, Chance loved the outdoors. His mother, Dawn, says he was an athlete and a cowboy at heart. Friends and family describe him as hardworking, determined, dependable, and kind. As he matured, these characteristics played a major role in his success as a bull rider. Chance competed in bull riding competitions in high school, winning several awards, including a bareback riding scholarship to Laramie County Community College in Cheyenne, Wyoming. It was there he earned his reputation as a champion rider and a degree in welding and diesel mechanics. His interest in welding led to his love for demolition derby cars and racing.
In October of 2017, Chance met Bailey Bewley online, and a few weeks later, he drove the 220 miles to meet her in person in her hometown of Gering, Nebraska. The pair really hit it off, began dating, and fell in love. A year later, in October of 2018, the couple said "I do," surrounded by the beauty of the Gering countryside and a small group of family and friends. After the wedding, the newlyweds settled in Moorcroft, Wyoming. Bailey remembers the day that she told Chance that he was going to be a father. She said, quote, "When I found out I was pregnant, I was kind of freaking out, but he was so excited, like stupid excited. I don't think I've ever met anyone with a bigger heart. He never complained, was always ready for a good time, and always made me laugh." Chance's mother, Dawn, says he was really excited about the baby. And from the minute he found out he was going to be a dad, he started working overtime to buy a house for Bailey and the baby.
Friends and family have also said that, like many young couples, Chance and Bailey's relationship was rocky, and there were a lot of arguments. Chance's lifelong friend, DJ, witnessed these arguments firsthand when the couple lived with them for a short time. He said when they argued, Bailey would accuse Chance of doing stupid stuff that he'd never do and get mad at him for talking to his mom too much. Dawn told the Vanish podcast that Chance was walking on eggshells. Bailey would call her screaming about what he supposedly did and didn't do. Dawn offered to get the two of them counseling, but Bailey refused. According to Dawn, Chance hated the drama and the fighting.
Well, young marriages always have challenges. I mean, I think all of us would attest to that. But we do have a lot of change happening in a pretty short period of time here. I mean, you've got a meeting, getting married, and she's pregnant. That's all within 1 year. So a lot of change. And then we're hearing this, he's living with a friend that I believe they get their own place after that. So just change going on here. That's certainly going to bring up, some growing pains for this relationship.
Mm-hmm. And that change doesn't stop. So on April 4th of 2019, Chance and Bailey celebrated the birth of their son, Banks. Chance was excited about being a father, and he couldn't wait to take his son to the rodeo and derby car races. So it seemed like things were really starting to finally fall into place. But then just a week before he disappeared, Chance suddenly lost his job. The coal mine where he had worked as a welder laid off 600 employees. And so Chance knew he had to find a job quickly. So he accepted a position with a local propane company. And this new job would pay less than what he was earning at the mine, but Chance was just grateful for the opportunity to provide for his family. And he was scheduled to start his new job when he returned from the 4th of July trip that they were taking, visiting Bailey's family in Gering.
So it sounds like this trip to visit Bailey's family, it's kind of a perfect time to just relax, kind of hit the reset button, maybe rest up a little bit before starting this new job. But I also get that they've got a new baby with them and they're looking to travel a considerable distance to make this trip to Gering. And with a 3-month-old baby, I'm sure that trip is challenging. Let's just take a look at this map together to see what kind of distance we're talking about from where they were living to where they were spending some time with her family. And yeah, we're looking at a 3.5-hour drive, kind of under the best conditions. 223 miles between these two locations. So, all right. And pretty much a straight south shot. So what happens after they get to Gering?
After arriving in Gering, the couple settled in at Bailey's grandparents' house and started making plans for the weekend. On Saturday, July 6th, Chance, Bailey's dad, and her sister's boyfriend went golfing at Chimney Rock Golf Course about 25 miles away in Baird, Nebraska. Bailey told the Vanish podcast that she spoke with Chance while he was on the course, and he seemed to be in a good mood. She said the guys were drinking and having fun together. But then Chance called her back and asked her to come and get him. He said he was upset and wanted to go home. When Bailey and Banks arrived, she learned that one of her family members made a comment about Chance's new job, paying less or something like that than what he had been making at the mine. It isn't clear whether the situation escalated to an argument or if it was just a misunderstanding, but whatever happened made Chance want to cut the trip short and head home. Bailey said they didn't argue in the car on the way back to her grandparents, but when they pulled into the driveway sometime between 7 and 7:30 p.m., Chance got out of the car and walked away.
Bailey got Banks out of the car and took him inside to her grandparents' house. She called Chance several times on his cell phone, but he didn't pick up. So she went out to look for him. According to Bailey, he finally answered one of her calls at 7:45 p.m., and he said he was walking south towards the town of Kimball, and he then hung up. At 7:23 p.m., about 20 minutes before he spoke to Bailey, Chance called his best friend Matt and told him that he was walking northwest toward Turing, Wyoming.
Okay, so Chance tells his friend Matt that he's walking northwest, but then 20 minutes later, he tells Bailey that he's actually walking south. So bringing up a map, trying to make some sense out of all this, we've got Torrington up here, we've got Kimball down here, and right in the middle is where he was at his in-laws. But him walking to either of these places just doesn't seem very viable. Like he's either walking like 35 miles to Torrington or 40 miles to Kimball. So it's, I don't know what's going on around this. I would expect that he's trying to arrange some kind of ride or something.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like maybe he was trying to arrange a ride with the friend, but tells Bailey a different story because maybe he wants to make sure that Bailey doesn't find him, or is just trying to give him enough time to create physical space. So he's just giving her maybe the wrong directions.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought because, listening to this again, just hearing that when he was kind of in distress at the golf course, his intuition was to call Bailey. And then she came and got him. I'm wondering if the argument kept going, or if he had a separate argument with her, if there was, because all of a sudden she gets back to their her parents' home, and then he has to leave the situation. So he's showing a change in pattern there. Before he reached out to her when he needed help, now he's in a situation where he has to escape her for some reason. So I don't know if they had a rough conversation on the drive back, or if it had to do with the home. Just like, oh, well, I can't, this is your parents' house, I'm going to go somewhere else. But, even considering, yes, we have guys out on the golf course. There's some alcohol that's probably part of this. Maybe he was intoxicated around all this. It's kind of strange to me that his first instinct when he needs help is to call her, but then by the time they're getting back to the house, he's like, I'm ditching her, and not even answering the phone until eventually he does answer it.
It's almost like in that moment when he's on the golf course, she's not there. She's the only one that he could feel like would be his advocate of, if it is about the job and it is about money, well, my wife will support me. I want to call her. And then it's maybe when he said, I want to go home, she misconstrued that as going back to the house. And then when they're in the car, when he really says, no, like, I want to leave this trip, I want to go home. Yeah. Could that have sparked a different conversation and then kind of change the tone between them?
Yeah. Do we have confirmation that they were drinking at the golf course? Do we know if alcohol was a part of this?
So Bailey has said that the guys were drinking on the golf course. Okay. That's the only confirmation that I was able to find.
Do we know why Chance is aiming for Torrington? Does he know someone there, or?
In all the research that I did, it doesn't explain why he would choose Torrington. My assumption was that it was maybe would make the trip from Moorcroft or maybe from his parents' house, whomever would come to get him, shorter.
Yeah, but it's a 12-hour walk. Like, it's so strange to me. And this is, this isn't a case from 1995. Like, we're talking 2019. Like, hit Lyft, hit Uber. Like, I don't know if they're available in that area, but it's just there's, I don't know, a 12-hour walk. Even if I was really upset, I've never taken a 12-hour walk. I can tell both of you that I've never been that upset.
And he has been described as determined, but I mean that's super determined. I don't think that fits here. So,
but we do have him communicating with his friend Matt. Did he tell Matt anything else about what happened?
Yes. So Chance told Matt he got into a fight with his in-laws and he needed a ride back to Moorcroft. Matt said he really wanted to help his friend, but he was 4 hours away hosting a 4th of July party, and he had been drinking. According to News Nation Now, Matt told Chance, I'll call you back. I'm going to see if I can find you a ride. At 7:45, Matt called Dawn, hoping that someone in Chance's family might be able to drive down and pick him up. Several family members, including his father and brothers, tried to contact him, but he didn't answer any of their calls. His Aunt Katie sent him a text message asking him to call her back. At 9:08 p.m., Katie received a return text from Chance's phone containing a grumpy face emoji with a string of cryptic text. The family found this message extremely odd because Chance never used emojis.
Okay, so we have a picture of it we're going to show here, but I just want to break down this chunk a little bit because it's raised another concern for me. He is again reaching out for help. So he's now talked to his buddy Matt. He's called his own family asking for help. But now when some form of that help is coming, people are trying to contact him to arrange a ride or arrange a pickup or something. All of a sudden he's not answering. So it's just making me wonder if this is a situation where there was some type of accident or something. I'm looking at that time frame, like when was he last spoken to? And it looks like we're talking about sometime around 7:45. And then after that, not a lot of communication except for this text message. Which we spent some time before recording today. I don't have an iOS device, but both of you do, right? And I just was running them through all kinds of questions about, does it autocomplete this? Does it autocomplete that? Is there some way that this is just pocket dial? The second line, perhaps, but on the first line, I guess the emojis only come up when certain words trigger them. They come up on the autocomplete bar.
Yeah.
So, and what's the word for that one, Andrea?
Yeah. So to get that flat mouthed emoji, but still with the two eyes, you would have to type the word bored for it to show up. So I think that's super interesting. And, you know, we did take a look at like the iOS stuff, and at the time this would have auto completed an emoji. So it's possible that this was in his pocket and it was just random text that started sending, essentially. And even with the string of text after that, we were trying to mess around to see what could we type that would, you know, what real words could we type that would not get auto corrected into something like this. And honestly, it's too difficult to really figure out that way. But
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So phone call around 7:45. Text message, we could see the time on it, 9:08 p.m. on Saturday, July 6th.
And I just want to add that in most of the articles that I read, the last contact seems to be 8:46. And that is associated is from a phone call. Okay. And that sounds like it was to Matt. So, you know, it's a little bit hard to decipher exactly what the conversations were. There's nothing specific that says this is exactly what was said at 8:46, but the final phone call was 8:46, and that, I believe, entailed his plan to go to Torrington.
Okay. Okay. What happens next?
So at about the same time that this text message was sent, there was a powerful thunderstorm going through Gering. Bailey and her family actually assumed that because of the cold temperatures, the gusty winds, and the pouring rain, that the weather would force Chance to take shelter in a nearby business wherever he was. So when the storm did eventually pass, Bailey's grandfather set out to look for him. They started checking local restaurants and bars, but no one had seen Chance. So at first, Bailey, again, she wasn't super worried because we know that after some arguments, Chance would often go to take a walk to cool down. But when he didn't come home after all these hours, Bailey said that she knew that something was terribly wrong. The following morning, she filed a missing persons report with the Gering Police Department. And after several calls from concerned friends and family, the police agreed to start searching for Chance.
This story is like literally turning into a nightmare. Like it's just, you go from a bad situation. Yeah, there's some family drama. We've all experienced that, to a rough situation. Now he seems like he might be upset at his wife, or he just needs to escape the situation. He's reaching out. He's calling for help. The connection isn't happening of someone just like, will be there. Even if, I mean, it sounds like this is probably a bit of ways from where his family resources are, but it's just missed opportunity after missed opportunity to get out of this. And then on top of all that, all of a sudden, a thunderstorm. Like, it's insane. You wouldn't believe this if you read it in a script.
So in the following days, investigators uncovered a physical sighting and 2 surveillance videos. At 7:49 p.m. on July 6th, about 35 minutes after he left Bailey in the driveway of her grandparents' home, a woman reported seeing Chance walking past the Domino's Pizza in Gering. 2 minutes later, at 7:51 p.m., video footage captured Chance walking north near the intersection of Martha Road and 10th Street in Terrytown, about 2 miles from Gering. And a second video from a Ring camera showed Chance walking near the intersection of Terry Boulevard and Stable Club Road. Police and Chance's family have confirmed that the person in these videos is Chance.
Well, let's go ahead and take a look. We have one of the videos available here. It looks like he's crossing a street.
Yeah, so this is Martha Road and 10th Street.
He stops in the street. Looks like he was looking at his phone and then changed directions.
Yeah, you definitely see him looking straight down. So to me, that definitely indicates he's on his phone.
Is that a street or a driveway? I guess at the start it looks more like it. Yeah, there's a stop sign. It's a street.
And
stops.
people have looked at this video and
Yeah.
repeatedly, have said he doesn't look intoxicated. His family's looked at it. They don't believe he looks intoxicated. But others have looked at it and said it looks like he might stumble there at some point. And so, maybe there are signs that he was intoxicated.
I mean, all I can see is a guy that looks like he's walking in boots. Like I'm not seeing any strong signs of him being intoxicated, but it's really hard. I mean, we're looking at a number of pixels here. This isn't the best footage in the world. I see if they're saying, like, when he turns, there's a little bit of a sidestep.
Yeah. I think the only thing for me that if I see this and think it doesn't look as, I guess, natural as some of this movement could be, seeing how he stops almost like squarely in the middle of the street, looks down, and then makes a move it's kind of robotic. It's almost like you're truly following map directions. And it's not until he gets a little bit further that he starts to go off to the side where, out of the way of cars.
Yeah.
So you would think if he knew where he was going, or if he was looking at the directions, if it is directions, but if he's looking at something before getting there, you would just kind of naturally make a curve rather than start, stop, look down, and then turn.
Yeah. I mean, I know I've done things like that, and it depends on the app that you're using, but some of them are really good about the direction and others aren't. Like, especially for some reason, Google Maps, when I'm using it for walking around, like, it just does not understand what way that I'm facing. So sometimes I'll have to do that. I'll literally stop. I'll have to hold it up in front of me, turn one way until it catches on, and then like, oh, okay, this is where I'm supposed to go.
I think that is so true, John, because I feel like walking directions on a map, like when you're holding your phone, are always just getting your bearings is so difficult. It just isn't, it's not as clear as when you're in a car.
Yeah. And we don't know. I mean, I kind of hope he was using an app like that, because I would like to think that law enforcement might have tried to get that information. Like, hey, can we track his phone? What map apps did he have? Can we see where he was trying to get to? I mean, if he was just aiming for that town, though, like, I don't know how helpful it could be necessarily. But we also don't know. It's possible that someone sent him directions. Someone said, hey, make a left on this street. And that he's reading the directions as he's doing that. We don't know for sure. So here on the bottom part of the screen, thanks to our buddies over at Crawl Space Media, they have a screenshot of the Ring camera. And basically it's just him kind of walking off in the neighborhood back there at 8:01 p.m. So we've definitely, we know he's fine around 8 p.m.
And the cross streets for that are Terry Boulevard and Stable Club Road in Terrytown. So we definitely see that he's going in that direction for sure.
Yeah. And when you put it all together, the sightings, so we've got, his in-laws live down here. We've got the first sighting at Domino's. We've got the second sighting at Martha. Now we have the third sighting at Terry. It really is lining up with him trying to get to Torrington. And I don't know how familiar he is with this area, but this street that he's on, what street is this? Well, he's on Stable Club Road at that point, but it looks like it's leading him towards Owl Road. And that doesn't look like a big main road. Like, if you were someone not familiar with the area and you talked to a local and said, how do I get somewhere? Odds are they're going to give you some directions that are maybe like the simplest of the directions, This Domino's sighting too, I wonder if it was actually from 10th. It looked like it could have been from 10th Street. So it's possible that he just walked straight up 10th Street there and didn't do this jag. I don't know. The whole thing is odd to me that he's planning on walking 35 miles. Like, it just...
Yeah. And this at least confirms too that the story that he told Bailey of the direction he was planning on going in is absolutely not where he was going.
Yeah, no, that's definitely not true. Like, unless something changed for some reason, but even that, the order that he gave these two instances doesn't make sense, because basically he's telling his friend, hey, I want to get to Torrington, and all of the tracking actually lines up with that.
Mm-hmm.
But then he tells her, no, I'm heading to Kimball. Sounds like, I don't know. It sounds like there was some really big disagreement. And maybe he was thinking that she was going to take a different side than she actually did. And that changed his perspective on who was with him and who was against him or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing that path, knowing that they traced him like that, it makes total sense that the authorities would request his cell phone records. Were they able to determine where Chance went after he was picked up on that last sighting by the Ring camera?
Yeah. So at around 10 p.m., and this is shortly before Chance's cell phone eventually goes dark. So we last have a ping off of a tower near the Riverview golf course. And so we know cell phone pings don't provide exact locations, but according to the Gering Police Detective, Sean West, the cell phone data shows that Chance's phone was in the area of Owl Road, just south of the Western Travel Terminal truck stop. And the arc of this tower covers a 2 to 3 mile radius, including West 25th Street to the north, Scottsbluff National Monument property to the south, and the Western Travel Terminal to the east, and then, of course, the Riverview Golf Club to the west. Police questioned the staff at the truck stop and reviewed surveillance videos, but found no other sign of Chance.
So it seems like the main thing we have to go on with this case is location data. And thankfully, we've got those sightings that kind of helps with it. Let's take a look at the area of the tower real quick, just to see where that... Okay, so this is the actual pinpoint for the tower. And kind of, yeah, based off what we were seeing here, I mean, it's right in line with where he was heading, going up Owl.
And then if you follow Owl up, so if we assume that he was walking on this back road, which is Owl Road, when you look at the map, it looks like it connects to Colt Lane. But when you follow Owl Road to Colt Lane, you can see that there's no road that goes over the water. So it is just a water crossing, basically. I read that there are logs and maybe rocks, and people can physically cross there, but it's not a road. And so Google Maps actually takes you like over that. So it makes it seem like there's a road that crosses there, or a bridge or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know this area. I don't know how deep this water is, but it looks like it's a break of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
And there's enough water that, we're seeing all this kind of white cap all over it.
Right.
Yeah. And I think too, thinking about the perspective, the timing of this, and then of course, knowing that this thunderstorm is very much happening. There were some reports that said that the river rose about 8 inches. So you've got a lot more water than anticipating. And then you're also thinking about the fact that this is a place way out of main road. So you're not going to have lighting at all either.
Right.
Yeah.
It's going to be dark. And then, I could see where you could actually get there and be like, holy cow, there's no road,
Right.
So now a decision needs to be made. Am I going to cross and continue, or am I going to turn around and do something else? And unfortunately, we know that the last ping happens right around that time or that area.
Yeah, well, definitely on track for this. That at some
Right.
point, if he would have continued based on all the movement that we've seen, he would have come across this.
Right.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we have covered way too many cases on this channel where men in their early 20s that might have been drinking wind up in water sources. So, but I know we've had searches in this case, and we haven't heard of any discoveries being made in the water, right?
No. And the search was really extensive. The Gering Police Department enlisted the help of 18 specialized agencies to conduct multiple ground, air, and water searches using drones, divers, helicopters, airplanes, cadaver, and scent dogs.
Wow.
Over 2,400 acres were searched, and they even drained the Gering Canal, but no sign of Chance was found.
And in the weeks following his disappearance, there were at least 2 possible sightings of Chance in Casper, Wyoming. Someone saw a man that resembled him walking or possibly hitchhiking along I-25 in Casper, and local law enforcement searched the area, but nothing really came of that lead. And then on Friday, July 12th, a city resident reported seeing Chance around 6 p.m. at the East Side Walmart in Casper. Detective West went over there. He visited the store and reviewed more than 6 hours of surveillance video, but he was unable to see anything that resembled Chance, and there was no positive ID.
Yeah, with a situation like this, I wish one of those would have a positive ID, just because we would know that he got through that area after this storm. But let's go ahead and just take a look. Casper is not exactly close by. About 172 miles from the cell phone tower where he last pinged. And it's well beyond Torrington, like way, way past it. Now, I mean, if we're considering a situation where he was trying to escape his life, like, he just didn't like all these changes. Now there's a baby. His job's about to change. I'm just going to hit reset. Maybe you would have a sighting like that out there, but with them not having any confirmation on it, it's not really something we can lean on. Did you hear from his family at all if they have considered that theory, or is this one of those he would never do that to us situations?
They strongly believe he would never do that. He was excited about his new job. He was excited about being a dad.
Yeah.
So they really don't feel that is the case. They also talk a little bit about whether or not Chance would hitchhike or not. And in a normal situation, they say no, that he would not ask a stranger for a ride. That was not in his character. However, it makes me wonder in this situation, which feels a little desperate. And, the town of Torrington is very far away, and it's dark and it's raining, and maybe he's wet and cold. Maybe he would hitchhike. So, that is a possibility.
Yeah. It is just very unfortunate, but extremely common in these many missing person cases that we review here, that these families go on this roller coaster ride of hope and disappointment when it comes to alleged sightings like this. And these sightings actually happen within a week of Chance going missing. Has anything happened since then? Are there any new or current leads with this?
Yes. So according to the Gering Police Department, they continue to receive and investigate new leads, but are no closer to knowing what happened to Chance. Brian Eads, lead investigator on the case, said that they have enlisted outside investigators and canine teams, executed search warrants, and conducted polygraph tests. Bailey Englebert and her family have been forthcoming and thoroughly investigated. All of the family members have been interviewed, and their properties have been searched by law enforcement. Both families, along with Chance's friends, DJ and Matt, have conducted numerous searches along the river, in the water, and across hundreds of acres of land. But not one of these searches has brought them closer to finding the answers they so desperately need.
And then in October of 2021, a local hunter found a human arm bone and a piece of clothing on a property in Scottsbluff County near the North Platte River. And so bone marrow was sent to the Nebraska DNA lab, but results were inconclusive. And then a second sample was sent to a Florida lab. And according to News Nation Now, authorities have concluded that the remains do not belong to Chance. So it's hard to imagine that a person could just vanish. And Dawn even says, after going through all of this for many years, it's been like a living nightmare, not knowing where he is, what happened to him. It's just overwhelming, and he is missed very much.
It's just absolutely heartbreaking to think of what that family's going through, and a baby without his father right now. So, I mean, I think maybe some of us are hoping this is a situation where he ran away. Like he just up and left. Do we know if there was any usage of accounts of his? We know the cell phone stops working that night, right? Around 10 o'clock.
Right. According to police, his accounts have not been accessed since he went missing.
So after that, my main concern is accident, especially with that map leading him, directly to a water source. I'm pretty concerned about that. Outside of running away or accident, we've looked at enough of these cases. We know the only other possibility is some type of foul play situation. Someone came to pick him up, got in the wrong car, something along those lines. It sounds like Bailey's family has been investigated. Do you guys have any feelings about that as a possibility? I don't know how strong it is outside of thinking of like crime of opportunity. Some stranger comes along, but do you guys have any thoughts on that?
So I do, based on some of the podcasts that I have listened to and news pieces that I have watched. There are some possible red flags in some of the information that has been shared. Bailey spoke to the Vanish podcast, and then according to her, she was receiving death threats and hired a lawyer very quickly after that, and does not speak to the media any longer.
Oh.
So, and
did she come off as suspicious in the podcast to you?
No, I mean, I wouldn't say suspicious. I would just say the information doesn't always match. Okay. So the story gets shifted a little bit. And it's always, information is controlled by her. It's Bailey's story. So that makes it very difficult to kind of nail down what actually happened. I think if law enforcement would come forward and kind of share, we've looked at the timeline. So this generality of we've investigated, but not coming forth and saying we've looked at the timeline, we looked at the cell phone data. We know that the story that Bailey is telling is accurate. I think that would do a lot for the case itself, because there's just rumors and, people just dragging the same issues through the mud over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. I would say, too, I think the main inconsistency that I've seen just among the online dialogue that's been pulled apart from these couple interviews that have been done is mainly whether or not there was an argument when Bailey went to go pick up Chance and they went back home. Mm-hmm. And so what happened in that car very well could have changed the trajectory of the rest of the day. And those moments have been really heavily scrutinized. So the tone of that is definitely under question. And then that kind of, fuels other theories down the line of what happened later. Yeah.
That it's an unfortunate thing because, I've looked at enough situations like this and dealt with families in these instances. And one of the first things I learned, and I never forget it, like it's like tattooed on my brain, is you are never dealing with the best version of that person when you're dealing with a family that's going through this. Mm-hmm. And that goes to varying extremes. Like they could be extremely hurt, lashing out, trying to make sense of what they're going through, throwing up all these pieces of information, just trying to make some sense out of all this. So yeah, conflicting information coming from a source like that, probably going to happen, especially consider that this is a highly emotionally charged thing that has happened. Like he was so upset that he needed to be picked up and he wanted to leave. So, her perspective on what's going on through all this is also going to be emotionally charged, is probably going to have all these points. And I can tell you, you could even look at police records and see discrepancies that'll drive you nuts. Like, and they do, for the families especially, they do drive them nuts. It's like, what? That's not even my son's eye color, or things like that. I mean, it's just and the problem is, and I try to be cautious about this because of the type of work that we do here, when you take that information and you serve it up as part of this mystery, like you want to be honoring the truth and the facts, but there's also a fine line between, passing that along with the reality that, hey, by the way, sometimes stuff just isn't written down right. Sometimes people change their mind or their memory shifts in terms of what happened. Like things like that do happen. So yeah, I always feel that kind of responsibility. I'm not getting a strong vibe here that something happened around the family. There's too much post contact. Like, if this was a different situation where she went and picked him up, he was never seen again. That'd be very different. She went and picked him up. He left. He's spotted on camera in several different places. He's reaching out to friends, talking to them about what happened. He's reaching out to family, trying to get a ride. His intent is clear. We can see he's leaving. We can see the direction he's going in. It's lining up with what he told his friend. And yeah, there's an interesting wrinkle in that in terms of that's not what he told his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that does. Honestly, that leads me stronger to him wanting to run away and escape the situation.
Mm-hmm. I think an interesting piece of this too is that, his actions show that he was really upset.
Mm-hmm.
But when the issue was described, it was described as a misunderstanding. And so there's a big discrepancy between a misunderstanding and maybe an argument or something that really upset Chance. And so that I really wonder about that. Like, what actually happened there? I would love to know, were there other golfers on the golf course? Were statements taken from them? Did anybody else see anything? Like, none of that has been released to the public.
Yeah. Andrea, I know you did some research on crime stats for this area. Can you just share with us? Because honestly, the thing I'm most worried about is the pattern I'm seeing in this story is when he needs help, he reaches out, and all of a sudden that's stopped. So that's where I'm concerned. That's where I'm thinking accident or some type of situation where someone else, stopped him from being able to do that. So what are the crime stats like in this area?
Yeah. So what I thought was super interesting is we know that for Gering, the crime rates are 46% lower than the national average. So by all accounts, this is most definitely a really safe place. And then even taking a look at that further, violent crime rates in Gering are 61% lower than the national average. So again, even less likely that something violent or horrible would happen. But what I think is also the flip side of that now is Terrytown. So Terrytown crime rates are 43% higher than the national average, and violent crime rates are 29% higher than the national average. So you really have these two dichotomies here with the two cities.
Right next to each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, it has been 4 years this weekend since Chance was last seen in Gering, Nebraska, wearing a short-sleeved button-up Wrangler shirt, dark blue jeans, a belt with a rodeo buckle, old-school Roper boots, and a black and white trucker cap. He is 5 feet 9 inches tall, weighs around 190 pounds. He has sun-lightened brown hair, a mustache, and a goatee. Chance's family and friends are missing him and holding out hope that this is the year they will find answers. To honor his 29th birthday, his maternal grandmother, Linda Kludner, donated $200,000 to the reward fund, bringing up the total reward to $220,000. She's hoping that someone will come forward with information about her grandson's disappearance. I think everyone here on the panel is also hoping that as well. Chance's mom is begging the Scottsbluff and Gering communities to remember Chance, saying, please, if you know anything, call somebody. You can show his family that you care by sharing Chance's story.
And speaking of caring communities, if you're looking for a space to meet like-minded true crime enthusiasts and advocates while also engaging in case discussions, look no further than the Uncovered community.
We even have a space in the community completely dedicated to this series with John Lordan, where we discuss the cases we've covered in each episode. Regardless of whether you become a member of our community or not, you still have access to the Uncovered database, where you can see all of our sources and a full timeline of Chance's case. If you want to support the work we do, check out Uncovered's merch. You can find links in the description below.
And of course, the biggest help is if you know something, say something. If you have any information on what happened to Chance Englebert, please reach out to the Gering Police Department at 308-436-5088. Or you can reach out to the Scottsbluff Police Department at 308-630-6261. You can also send tips in anonymously to the We Help the Missing tip line. That's 866-660-4025. A big thank you to all the sources that are trying to help on this case and raise exposure to it. We can't do this show without their fine work as well. A big thank you to Dateline Missing in America, NBC News, News Nation Now, The Vanished Podcast, the True Crime with Kendall Ray podcast, the Star Gazette, Oil City News, News Center 1, The Charlie Project, News Channel Nebraska, Rural Radio KNEB, Crawlspace Media, Tri-State Live News, Newspapers.com, Nebraska TV, Disappeared Blog, NamUs, Gillette News Record, Web Sleuths, and the Help Find Chance Englebert Facebook page. Also, a very big thank you to my friends at Uncovered.com and co-hosts on today's show, Andrea Cipriano and Dana Pohl. Please join us again in 2 weeks as we look into yet another mystery that deserves to be uncovered.